Welcome to part 2 of my attempt to build the AKUTAN ZERO. I realized at the end of part 1 I sounded an awful lot like Michael J. Fox in being impersonated by, who did him? Dana Carvey on SNL? Anyway, I sounded an awful lot like him. No, it was David Spade. Anyway, so stay tuned and see whether I can pull this off. And I promise I won't sound like Michael J. Fox again. So it's been, what, all of 5 minutes? Well, when I put the plane into position and started to map out where I was going to put grass, it became obvious that the front of the plane was too high off the ground. So remembering that this is upside down, I cut off more of the stabilizer thing there, as well as, is that a stabilizer? Part of the tail, and cut off the top half of the canopy and the poor pilot's head, which is there. Here's the top half of the canopy I cut off. That's just the kind of stuff you have to do sometimes to make the dioramas work. You just have to hope that you're making the right decision, because it's a lot easier to cut off a part of a airplane's tail and a pilot's head as opposed to putting them back on again. So we'll see how this goes and make them. So I'm essentially done with the plane, but the problem is with the base. You can see the plane sits on the base a little high. I just could not get the static grass to be as tall as it is in the reference photos, which I think is a problem. Getting a little closer, it looks pretty good for other uses. This is not too bad static grass, but it's just got to be taller to make it look like the kind of bog it was in real life. Well, if I can't make the static grass taller, then I have to sink the plane to make the plane a little closer to the top of the grass. So that's what I'm going to have to do. I can't do that with this because that is glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this base, because I think this is actually very nice for other uses. I'll figure out something to do, maybe a different plane crash, one that's not so historically based with photographs that dictated be done a certain way. So what I'm going to do is, this is styrofoam. I took another old frame that wasn't being used. I took the back off. I cut a piece of styrofoam to fit inside the back of the frame. So this, I can gouge out a little bit where I need to sink the plane further. And then when I do the static grass, it's going to be closer to the right height. Might never be able to get it perfect, but it's going to be better. So I'm going to start my new base and get back to you and show you the static grass results of that when I have the chance. Static grass. Problematic, but necessary. Well, I'd say that's more like it. You can see the grass does not have to be that long to look like the reference photo. And it lays pretty well. Piece of cake, assuming I don't screw up the static grass. So the base has had 2 different layers of epoxy resin applied, one on top of the brown paint that I painted the styrofoam base, and the other on top of the bare areas that I thought should look a little different color and maybe be a little rippled. So you can see I've done that. So everything is all ready to be static grassed. Now, since I like to live dangerously, I have brought a cup of coffee into the model room on the model table, and I plan on probably dumping that about halfway through this session, and then having to abort the session and then clean up all the coffee, because that's what usually happens when I'm dumb enough to bring a beverage into the model room. However, I'm kind of tired today. Now, the coffee is a whole nother story. I thought it was going to be milk chocolate flavored coffee that I just bought these Keurig cups for. And when I made it, it turned out to be actual hot chocolate. And so I wanted more coffee because there was no caffeine in the hot chocolate. So I did have 1 Keurig mocha cup of mocha coffee. That's actual coffee. So I made that on top of the hot chocolate. So now I've got this actually pretty tasty mocha with just a little caffeine to keep me awake in the afternoon. Now, normally, I have 1 cup of black coffee first thing in the morning. And since I'm a coffee snob, I roast and grind my own beans. So, this is kind of like cheater's coffee, and my book. And in fact, if you look at it, it's not even anywhere near black. So I hesitate to even call it coffee. I don't know what it is. It's coffee-ish drink. I think coffee should only be called coffee when it's black. But, you know, that's just me, an old man, yelling to get off my lawn as I shout at clouds. So I'm going to do the static grass. Going to wear a glove on my grounding hand for the static grass, and hopefully will not shock myself too many times. Well, I got the board all slathered up with glue. I'm holding the glue brush in my mouth as I talk. And gonna do the static grass. Let's hope everything works out okay. Back in a minute. Well, here it is with my first go-round of static grass. I did 7 millimeters. It's just tough. It's just long grass that doesn't make it out of the machine that easily. So then I did 4 millimeters, and that usually works pretty well. The problem is, partway through, the machine broke. I hesitate to even call it a machine. It's this thing that looks a little bit like, I don't know, some kind of weird pepper shaker or something. Anyway, they're not really built to last for the most part. And this one, there's a button you push to make it activate, and the on-off button. And the on-off button just was getting harder and harder to get to turn on. And to make a short story long, it just broke. It just stopped working. So I've ordered another one, a little bit higher quality. My higher quality static grass applicator has come in. I can't get it to work with the electrical attachment. It didn't come with the adapter, but I've got plenty of these sorts of adapters and it just won't work. So I have a decision. I can try to send it back and get a new one, and that's going to be a pain in the you-know-what. It does seem to work with a 9-volt battery, and I have a bunch of 9-volt batteries just sitting around gathering dust. So I'm going to see. If it works like this, we're good to go. Going to put some fresh glue down, and fingers crossed. Alrighty, so it didn't work too badly. I'm no static grass expert by any means. It's not one of the strengths of my modeling skills, but it sticks up quite a bit better than the previous stuff did. So I'm going to let this dry and see what it looks like. There's a bit of variation in the height of the grass, which I think is good, and in areas where you can see the bog water poking through. And since I already have glue laid down, and I don't plan on doing any more static grass, at least not near or under the airplane, I'm going to anchor the airplane now, and that'll give me a good idea as to how the final product is going to look. Hopefully, not badly. Remains to be seen, as I say. So I've arranged a couple of very specifically designed and manufactured weights onto the aircraft. The wing on the right is closer to the water than the one on the left, so that's why that one is weighted down on the right side. And I put a weight on the middle, just because I want this to be as sunken in appearing as possible. If you look from the side, you can't really see the tip of the tail, which is what I want. It's just a matter now of waiting for the glue to dry, as I've said, and hope it comes together. It's acceptable. It's not perfect, but I think unless you've got the reference photo right in front of you, I think it's going to look pretty good. This is the final result after the glue dried. Static grass, more like static ass, am I right? No, actually, I'm satisfied with it. I think this is as good as I can get it. Lowering the plane into the base really helped sell it. I need to add my fuel tank back, which you see I've got kind of just plopped down there, and the wheels and things like that. And I need to come up with a sign, some sort of clever sign, and then I'll be done. So very close now. Well, I've added a few things here and I'm almost done. I put the wheels and drop tank where they should be, added a little more detail to this wing edge. I used my acrylic varnish to make the bog look more organic and boggier, not just in the big portions, but also I took kind of a brush that had wide bristles on it and dabbed it on between some of the grasses. So the spaces between look more like bog and less like just grass on a lawn. I'm going to do my sign, which you'll see at the complete unveiling, and then I'll be done. But given the difficulty I had with the base, I have to be happy with how this turned out. I even made that, I think that's drop tank tubing. I looked at the reference pictures really carefully, and I made that out of some thin wire I had, and I think even that worked out. So, one more step, make the sign, and then the grand unveiling. Well, thanks for sticking with me to the end. Here is the completed diorama, the AKUTAN ZERO. I decided to make the label a representation of the Japanese Imperial War flag, which I made using tissue paper that I taped securely to a normal piece of paper, and then copied the flag onto it through my computer, and then I cut that out, put more tissue paper backing onto it because it's pretty thin, and then I sprayed it with gloss acrylic spray, and then I put some Mod Podge on the back to stiffen it up, and I think it looks appropriately a little bit like cloth. I'm happy with that result. The overall diorama I'm pretty pleased with. You know, the base was pretty difficult. I had to ditch that first base, which I'll use for something else, but my next base I'm pretty happy with. I think it has a good bog-like quality. Let me turn it around so you can see it from other angles. I think the airplane turned out reasonably well. And so I'm satisfied with this, and it's going to be on to the next. One of my daughters gave me a good idea for a diorama to do, which would be the last scene of the original Planet of the Apes movie, which has such a great ending. So I think I might work on that. That's a good in the middle of winter project because I don't have to do a lot of rattle can spraying. I can do it all completely indoors. So if that video appears in the near future, you know that worked. If it doesn't, well, you might guess that maybe it didn't. I think it'll work. Anyway, thanks for tagging along for this. Hope it wasn't too horrible of an experience to watch and listen to. You know, in case you wonder, you know, why I sometimes repeat myself and things like that, and why this seems sort of, you know, amateurish and not really written ahead of time or anything. It's because that's exactly the way it is. I just talk and make it up as I go along, and you know, that's just the way I want to do these things. I don't want these to be slick. I want them to be more conversational and amateurish and kind of pretty poorly done in every way. So hopefully I've met that expectation as well. Anyway, see you around.